So, imagine this. You've got a whole bunch of amazing student tech projects sitting right in front of you. How in the world do you pick a winner? Well, today we're putting you right in the judge's seat. We're going to walk through the exact process that Kentucky's Student Technology Leadership Program uses so you can see what it really takes to judge a competition fairly and, effectively. It's a tough question, isn't it? How do you balance all that raw creativity with these hard and fast technical roles? You got to make sure every single student gets a fair shot. Well, that's the exact puzzle the STLP has been working to solve. So let's break down their pretty clever system for one of their most popular categories. Here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on what the assignment IMIN is. Then we'll dive into the essential ground rules and a new system for eligibility. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of scoring, and then we'll talk about what might just be the most important part, giving great feedback. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to pick that semifinalist. All right, first things first. As a judge, you can't possibly evaluate a project if you don't know the rules of the game. So what exactly were these students asked to create? The category is called Screen Capture Tutorial. Now that might sound pretty simple, but the room for creativity here is just huge. The basic idea is that a student has to record their screen to teach a skill. And this could be anything really, from a super complex coding function to a simple little Photoshop trick. They can use a voiceover, on-screen text, or both. The main thing is it has to teach something, and they've got to keep it short and sweet. Okay, so before we even think about handing out points for cool graphics or creativity, there are some really strict ground rules. You can think of these as the first gate every single project has to pass through. It's all about making sure the competition is fair for everybody. There are 4 big ones you've got to check right off the bat. First, this has to be an individual effort. No group projects allowed. Second, the work has to be 100% the student's own, which, and this is important, now explicitly bans generative AI. Third is the copyright check. If they use any music or images, they need to show they have permission. And finally, every student has to turn in a document that explains their process so you can actually see their thought process from start to finish. Now, this next part is a really interesting and pretty recent change to how this all works. It makes everything so much simpler. Before you even start thinking about scores, it all just comes down to 2 simple checkboxes. This slide here shows a really smart evolution in the judging process. See, instead of burying fundamental requirements like digital citizenship somewhere in the point-based scoring, they've pulled them right out front. Now they're just a simple, non-negotiable yes or no. It makes the whole thing a lot clearer and way more fair. So, what are these 2 crucial checks? The first one is access and category. It's pretty basic. Can you actually open the file, and is it what it's supposed to be? A screen capture tutorial. The second one is digital citizenship. Is the work original? Is it school appropriate? And is it free of any AI or copyright problems? An entry absolutely needs a yes for both of these to even be in the running. And this right here is the most critical takeaway. Every student, no matter what, still gets a full score and detailed feedback. But, and this is a big but, to be eligible to move on, an entry absolutely must pass those 2 checks. A project could score a perfect 50 out of 50, but that score means nothing without those 2 little green check marks. So, once a project has cleared those 2 eligibility hurdles, then you get to dive into the detailed scoring. And the heart of this is a 50-point rubric, which is broken down into 5 key categories. The scoring kicks off with a major focus on creativity. This quote, which is pulled right from the rubric itself, really sets the tone. They're not just looking for technical skills, they're looking for a unique voice, a little spark of originality. That first category is called innovative design, and it's worth up to 10 points. This is where you, as the judge, have to ask, did the student bring their own flair to this? Is the way they're teaching creative, or does it kind of feel like a standard by-the-book tutorial you could find anywhere online? The other 4 categories, which are also worth 10 points each, build on that. Design principles is all about clarity. Is it easy to follow? Technical aspects covers the basics, like is the audio clear and did they hit that 2-minute time limit? Interest and appeal asks a simple question. Is it actually engaging to watch? And finally, process is where you judge that written explanation of how they made it. So you add all that up, and you get a total of 50 possible points. This rubric really makes sure that a judge is looking at every single angle of the project, from that initial creative spark all the way to the final technical polish. Okay, So you've checked all the boxes, you've entered all the scores, but now we come to what the training material explicitly calls the most important part of your job. And this part isn't about numbers, it's about helping a student grow. This quote, it really gets to the heart of it all. For a student who has poured hours and hours into their project, the number you give them is temporary. But the feedback, that's what sticks. It's a real conversation that helps them see what they did well and where they can go next. That's where the real learning happens. The program actually offers a super simple but powerful formula for giving feedback. Step 1, start with praise. Tell them what your absolute favorite thing was about their project. Step 2, offer one specific, concrete suggestion for improvement. It's a simple model, but so effective. You celebrate their success, and then you give them a clear next step for how to get even better. All right, all the scores are in, all the feedback is written, and now it's the moment of truth. It's time to select the best in group, the one entry that you're going to advance to the semifinals. So how do you make that final call? Is it just as simple as picking the highest score? You'd think a 49 out of 50 is the automatic winner, right? Well, the actual answer goes all the way back to that very first step we talked about. The answer goes right back to those two little checkboxes. Your semifinalist doesn't actually have to be the highest scoring project. It just has to be the entry that's eligible. A project that scored a 45 but has both checkmarks can and should be chosen over a project that scored a 49 but, say, used AI or had a broken link. Fairness and following the rules have to come first. And that kind of brings us to our final thought here. As we've seen, this whole judging process is about so much more than just finding a winner. So it's worth asking, what's the real prize here? Is it the number on the page? Or is it that piece of thoughtful advice from a judge that inspires a student to come back next year, even more creative than before?